U of I, or is this a national network in some way?
It is. It's a national organization.
Okay, so iMatter is a national organization. It sounds to me a little bit like 350.org. Is there any collaborate? Is this a project or program of 350.org?
It's not.
Is this totally independent of that?
It's totally independent.
Okay.
iMatter is really focused on the youth. Is 350 specific?
No, I guess 350.org is all. Yeah.
I think that's a key.
Just going back to
really.
the Jim Henson's research.
Right.
Was the report card a collaboration between the different youth groups or one youth group?
So the report card format and kind of grading scale and things like that was created by the national organization. And then the high school students around here have been working on getting the data and things for Champaign and Urbana and putting it into that tool.
How many high school students are involved in iMatter?
Like the national organization
No,
or here?
Here locally.
There's a few people from each school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Not sure about Central and Uni. At least from Urbana, it'd be probably around like 8 or 9 people.
Is that the same size as your sustainability club, or is it a subset of the club?
It's the same size.
So it's the club.
Mm.
How long have you had that club?
Again, we started. When did we start? I want to say the beginning of this school year. And unfortunately, like we're kind of stalled for a bit because winter rolled in, and that didn't really allow us to do much. Thankfully, our school has a greenhouse. We were allowed to start some composting and growing food in there. But yeah, so I think it's just pretty much the entirety of this school year. So it'd be, I don't know, how long is the school year?
Well, just this year.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was from last year or a few years ago or just recent.
Yeah, it was recent.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So I just came from a meeting of the Lerman area neighborhood community garden. I don't know if you've ever gone down to see that facility.
Which street is it on?
It's on the corner of South Lerman and Washington, near the Brookins Center soccer field. We started that garden about 6 years ago, I guess, and every summer we've had some enlargement of it. And we've been giving out free produce at 10:30 each Tuesday morning during the growing season. And I'm just wondering if your group, perhaps, is it Adrian? Or
Aiden.
Aiden? Would maybe want to come and visit the garden at some time.
Sure, I don't see why not.
I mean, you could actually take a plot and plant some food if you wanted to.
All
Because
right.
we're going to start plowing very soon to plant. And we're also thinking about building a couple of raised bed boxes. We built some about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, but they kind of are deteriorated, so we're thinking about building some new ones. So, I mean, if you have people with extra energy who want to do something that's kind of communal in a neighborhood that is underserved, I should talk to you.
All right.
It'd be kind of fun to have a group from the high school come over. They're planning a neighborhood cookout. I'll just tell you this, I just learned this afternoon. Saturday, April 22nd, there's going to be a cookout at the garden from 5 to 7. That means free food. It's connected with a neighborhood cleanup thing, so the people are going to walk around with plastic bags picking up trash in the parkway. If you want your club to come over and hang out with that, you're totally invited.
Yeah, sure, it sounds good.
And I'm going to give you my card.
All right.
And you'll notice that's right there.
Oh yeah, actually, we were contacted by Cranner Center because they have their Sonified Sustainability Festival.
Mhm.
So we were going to take part in that, and then hopefully hop over to your neighborhood cookout.
Yeah, well, you know, if it works, fine. If it doesn't, well, you know, we're not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's garden. Once you put the things in the garden, it happens.
All right.
Kidding. But I know.
So
Interesting.
does your report card also make specific recommendations, or is it a status check?
Right, so there are recommendations in the report card.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Other computer.
So it comes with this kind of detailed report on the grading scale, how all of that works, and also some recommendations in there. Okay, it's kind of really slow, but yeah, it explains more in depth. Okay, I'm really bad at this. But
I have a question.
yeah.
So, I imagine there might be some communities that have a high score on their report card.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those high-scoring communities, do we have a sense of what's going on in those communities? Like, not just how the report card is scored, but what I'm thinking is, okay, who are the high-scoring communities, and what is their emissions performance? You know, what are the actual results for their emissions, and what are they doing in order to, meet those goals and to be improving their performance? And I guess I'm just wondering if there are, if there are some example communities that we could look at and see what are other communities doing if they're doing well. Do you have that kind of information?
That's a really good question. I don't, but I definitely agree that would be great to have. Most of the cities that have done this report card are not very far along, so we don't have an example of an iMatter campaign where that's happened, but obviously there's definitely cities out there that would be good to look at. So yeah, we should definitely do research into that.
I think a city like San Diego actually declared that they were going to be carbon neutral,
Oh,
and wherever the date it was, but they
right,
declared that already. I
right.
think
Yeah.
St. Louis did too, and there's another city that did.
Thank you. Yeah. It's interesting to see what their progress is. Something,
Yeah.
of course, about Portland
Mhm.
being a longtime leader in some of these issues. I was just thinking about that when we put the climate action plan in place, part of the idea was that every 2 years or so we would just kind of review our strategies, how successful or not successful they'd been, whether there were other types of strategies or tactics that the city could employ that maybe weren't on the horizon when we first came up with the plan. So we, at this point, had been talking about maybe doing that review later in the summer, which of course is when school is not in session. So I don't know whether whether there's access to your group in the summer months or not. But I'm just thinking that could be a good way to get some involvement, because I think both of those things are in both the concern about whether we're leveraging the right strategies, or whether there might be some things that could move us along more quickly, and also to get some youth engagement. I mean, alternatively, I might propose that if your groups are not available over the summer, that perhaps that could start sort of August, September instead of when you're not available.
I was in the same line. I was
Mhm.
thinking, we really, from the U of I side, just the majority of students leave and faculty leave, but the high school students are, for the most part, here, right? I mean, you're not
Mhm. I mean, a
only
lot
here
of
during the school year.
a lot of the people I know,
Yeah.
including myself, have jobs over the summer.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm sure there's somewhere we could find places to.
Some flexibility.
Yeah.
And so it really seems like one of the sort of strategies that could potentially work is to spend more time in conversations about sustainability during the summer when you're not also doing school and,
Mhm.
and other, so your core focus is academics, right?
Yeah, certainly.
And then just run with them during the school year.
Mhm.
But it's just along the same lines of what you were asking.
Right. yeah,
And I
that's
also,
what I'm for.
I'm curious how iMatter and the student club would continue to interact after this. Is it something that recurs, sort of along the same lines, or do you step out, Rebecca? Do you know?
I'm just here to help, really. So it's whatever they want to do. But yeah, I definitely agree that it's a process, and like, so yeah, working as much as we can.
What's the cost of achieving the last 20% of reduction?
Beyond 80%?
Yeah.
We don't have that
Yeah.
sort of analysis. We have a little bit of preliminary or generalized analysis to get to the first 25% in the climate action plan in phase 2. And my recollection was to get to 25%, it was somewhere around $100,000 a year in energy efficiency monies. So that
But
gives
the-
you some sense of scale.
The cost goes, does the cost go significantly up the closer you get?
But at some point, you squeeze all the efficiency you can get out of buildings and commercial buildings and residences, and then you have to go to renewable energy, right? To make up for what there's, the energy the buildings are still going to use, and renewable energy is more expensive than energy efficiency per kilowatt.
All right. I assume that we have some established contacts here,
Mhm.
so perhaps, if we can just sort of, follow up over the summer with,
Yeah, we can
Getting
definitely
some-
follow up
Mhm.
on the report and look closely at the recommendations that the report
Mhm.
makes, and look at how that works with the existing climate action plan, which turns out, well, the current activities go to 2020, and then the last thing in the climate action plan is to make plans for the period after that. So this can really inform that effort.
Ask another question before we close out on that topic. Aiden, if you had, from what you've seen, if there was one thing that you would like the city to do as quickly as possible, did something come to mind?
That's really tough. I mean, I can't think of anything directly off the top of my head.
Did you find something surprising that we're not doing?
I mean, I don't find a lot of things surprising. No offense.
Was there something that the sustainability committee really talked about a lot? Had a big discussion?
Are you speaking? What do you mean by sustainability committee?
Well, club. Sorry.
I mean, unfortunately, the one thing we've been talking about is when can we actually start truly doing things, because it's been such a slow start,
Right.
and that's really been like kind of disillusioning people, and like they've been slowly like kind of waning on it just because it's taking so long to start because of the winter, because of just the school being in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But truly, the one thing we've talked the most about is just simply like is just trying to set up a sort of system within the school, and it's like not necessarily one thing, but it's like, can we hit a point in the school where even if it's just with one class, if we just with the foods class, or if we can somehow end up with the entire cafeteria, just like where we can create a cycle where it's just continually creating, it's just there's nothing lost in that cycle, so we can continually produce our own food, which then goes into the cafeterias, which then and ends up with a better diet for the kids, as well as going into the foods class, so then people can actually truly work with like fresh ingredients, and then that going back into compost, into making food again and things like that.
Does your club have a advisor, like one of the teachers?
Yes, Dr. Joni White. I'm not sure what else to say about her. Oh, she's great.
Maybe you'd like to take this question back to your club and then report back in
Mhm.
May?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
All right, great. Well, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for,
I have
sorry.
another question.
Yeah.
No, it looks like iMatter is a national organization, and maybe you're a local chapter or something. I wonder about whether, I guess, so one thing to get a lot of, so people were talking about, what does it cost to do this or that, and we have to face the fact that doing stuff a lot of times will involve money, especially if we're going to have large impacts. And so I wonder if fundraising, collaborative projects, leveraging things like existing incentive programs, if there's, one way to do collaboration is to go after money together and leverage existing money that's out there. So I guess I just wanted to put that out there and ask the question of, is there a thought about doing that type of work? Raising funds to do work.
It was just mentioned a couple of meetings ago at the city council that Dark Container, which is a big company right here outside of town that makes styrofoam cups for the world, practically, is starting to accept recycling of foam-based cups and packing peanuts and things like this. And that's something that we haven't been able to recycle successfully here in the city. I could imagine one of the projects that the high school could do would be to have a bin and collect foam cups and takeout containers and whatever you find at home, or maybe it's even used in the school for drinks, soft drinks and things like that, and collect them, put them into large bags and take them out there and recycle them once that program kicks off. And I don't know if it's started yet or not, but I mean, if you want to do a hands-on thing and you want to probably do something in the school where you see that there's actual progress, something right, and I was going to say, well, you could start a compost pile, in the garden outside the school, but I mean, this could actually be a really good thing because people have not been able to recycle this material yet in town.
Mhm.
Just going to
If you get it in a big pile, people start becoming aware of how much material there is.
Right.
And perhaps that would encourage reduction.
I don't know how involved you wanted to get with that idea, but you could set up a booth at the Saturday market in the square and collect styrofoam from Urbana and Champaign residents, and then use your vehicles to take it over. So that could be a summer-long thing that the whole club could do, and it's set time and
Mhm.
day. So.
Let me write all these things down.
Because there was a news article in the paper about the styrofoam.
Right, right.
Well, I missed that, but
That gave you, well, we were talking about this last meeting, and it gave you guidelines on what can go there and what can't.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any last comments before we wrap this one up? Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Meet the young man at the end there. What's
I'm
your
just here
name?
to observe. My name is Ted.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank
Are
you.
you with the iMatter group, or are you with
No,
the
I go to U of I. I just one of my professors recommended coming here and just checking it out. I'm not intruding, am I?
No,
No.
It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
As a member of the
You're
public, you're more than
encouraged. Please
welcome.
come back.
All right, great. Well, I look forward to, some continued involvement.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so with that, we'll turn to Alderman Roberts with the Ammonia Creek presentation.
Okay. Okay, and, all right, and I can go up there and click the buttons up there, right? Or do I go right?
If you want, you can use the Java key on this too.
Yeah, that's
That's easier.
Okay. Well, you're actually about the fifth group that I've brought this presentation to. I'm very happy, actually, of the progress that's being done. This is talking about taking a concept that we've already started working on in the city of Urbana, which is the Boneyard Creek improvements. And as you know, and we'll see here in a minute, we've already done some work here in the community, and we actually have a Boneyard Creek path or park in the downtown. And this conversation is getting started because a property owner who lives near Strawberry Fields, he lives on Main Street, right at the Y where Strawberry Fields, where Main Street and Springfield join. He has properties along there, and he wanted to see if the city would be interested in trying to make the creek behind his house into a park pathway. So what a great idea. And so let's see if I can see. The Boneyard Creek, well, of course, originally it was a natural creek running along the edge of the old grove, the big grove here in Urbana when it was the Frontier Times, and it's been, used as a water source and a kind of a dumping sewage dump area for a while. And in 1978, a master plan was devised by the community, Champaign and Urbana, to handle flooding issues that were occurring in the downtown, campus town area and overflowing of the banks. And so they were thinking about how to channelize it, how to reduce the flooding. And so they came up with a big plan, which here are 2 pages from the plan showing some of the concepts about how they would manicure the creek bed along near what used to be Thornburn School, used to be the high school at one time, down there where the recreation center, it's Phillips Recreation Center is today. And then it goes through the downtown area up across University Avenue to 5 Points and beyond. And that plan, and also enlarged version at the top here, shows how it went through the downtown of Champaign as well, and ultimately they built the retention basin. And it showed that the plan even involved concepts about how to make little bridges and scenic bridges over the creek, how to set back the bank, which is in the lower middle section, and also the concept included a plaza next to the creek near the downtown of Urbana. So that happened a rather long time ago, 78. Some of us weren't even here yet. And then in 2008, the city used TIF funding to have a modern plan devised. Wenck and Associates came and they created a concept and do the engineering. And in 2012, we actually had the dedication of the most elaborate section, which is segment 3 up here in the kind of top left corner. Was actually engineered and constructed and dedicated in 2012. There are several other segments that they've been planned, but they haven't been carried out yet. This segment 2, segment 1, which is, here's the Y right here I'm talking about, and this is right there behind the liquor store and the public defender's office, and here's Allman's garage here. Goes up behind Race Street along here. And then the segment 4 and 5 go from Broadway Avenue out toward Saline Creek, and those are the more simplified versions of the pathway. But right now we do have a walking path that goes through segment 3 in the downtown. So that was a huge accomplishment for the city. So this map shows that this is the planned area. We already have that engineered, planned out pretty much, and the concept already exists. And we look over here, the University of Engineering campus. They have the Boneyard Creek goes through here. It's a an excavated area. It's been landscaped. It's kind of a sunken, the creek is sunken down pretty far, and you can go across bridges and observe it. It's a very beautiful area, a lot of flowers and things in the springtime. So the missing section is from here to here. There's no connectivity, and why not? Why, it's something that we should be working on. And amazingly enough, Urbana has never really made any future plans for that section of the creek since 1978. So, of course, I'm interested in trying to change that. And I just want to point out that this area right here from the Y, Main Street, Springfield, it's about a block and a half long. Part of it is commercial, and we already have buildings along here, but the creek passes through this neighborhood right here, and it happens to be the very property that Mr. Fosty, Darrell Fosty, the man who came to talk to me, owns. Rather a large section of that.
Dennis, what is the westbound end of that triangle? What street is that?
This one, the westbound?
Yeah.
McCullough.
Okay.
I can never remember McCullough's name. Sorry. All right. Here's a close-up of that very corner, that triangle. I call it the golden corner because it's got all this potential. And it's really the next logical connection from the end of the planned area here. And of course, then the creek is underground, goes across Main Street, and continues through here. And Darrell Fosty's property, he lives at a house on this lot. He owns 2 lots here. He owns this lot, this lot, this lot, this lot, this lot, and that lot. It's a lot of property. It's almost 50% of the property owner on the creek bed. And there's another owner that owns a heck of a lot. His name is Peter Botza. And he owns this property, this property, this property, this property. Unfortunately, these properties are all individually divided between each other. There's not a continuation of property, so you can't make a block of activity there, but there's potential. Well, so at the invitation of myself and Mr. Fosty, we invited the city council to walk through this corridor in September 2015. And we were pleased to find that it's actually kind of a beautiful garden-like area. And, it's one that you wouldn't see normally from Springfield as you're driving by, because, well, at that time there were a lot of houses all along the road, and it was all behind the houses. But as you walk through there, not only are there mature trees and lots of vegetation, as a matter of fact, it's very wild, there are some rickety old garages. Some of them are being used just for storage by Mr. Fosty. And there is a gravel drive that runs from behind Strawberry Fields all the way to the road on McCullough. So there's access there already, and it could almost be a bicycle path right now. So the city council walked through there. And one of the reasons why Darrell Fosty wants to talk about converting this property into a parkland area or a greenway is because he owns the property along there, and his houses have all been sinking. And so these are photographs of proof of that. This is the basement of one of his homes. This home has since been demolished because it's pretty much uninhabitable. Here's a city park. No, it's a city park. It's a park that we thought was owned by the park district, but it's a little pocket park, and it's right next to the Strawberry Fields. You wouldn't even notice it. It's just this little indentation where there's a couple of seats and a raised bed. But the raised bed is already cracking apart. The concrete bed wall is broken. And one of the buildings that's just been recently built, about 10 years or 12 years ago, on Springfield is the Opera House apartments. They are already showing structural problems. These are load-bearing walls, vertical-bearing walls in the parking deck, which is at the lower level, street level, and they are already showing vertical cracking through the brick, cinder brick, So that there is a stress that's occurring, and this is a parking pad next to that, and it's already cracked and heading downhill. And Mr. Foskey said that he had a city engineer come out, not a city engineer, but a University of Iowa professor engineer, and he said that when they dredged the creek lower across the campus and through the back of through this area, and they channelized it by dropping metal plates down all its entire distance. It dropped the creek below the natural water table. So the water then that is filtering down through the ground is now sifting down into the creek and falling into it from the surrounding land. And therefore, there's this minute particulate filtration of sand that's being eroded out of the land around the creek bed. As a matter of fact, in the backyard of one of his properties, we found a hole that was about a foot wide, and dropping a plastic pipe into it was about 3 feet deep. So this was like basically a sinkhole created. So these are some of the problems that he thinks. It shows that there shouldn't be housing developed or buildings built along the creek bed in this area. And this area is in the floodplain of the Boneyard Creek. There's a difference between the floodway and the floodplain. The floodplain is the larger expanse of water that would be washed out, and possibly this is to be the extreme area where the water would reach on like a 100-year flood. So these properties, including all of Mr. Foskey's properties on this side where he lives, are in the floodplain, and many of the properties, at least half of them, are also affected this way. Strawberry Fields, located at let's see, this location, the north-facing steps on their porch actually cracked off, and they had to take them off. Mr. Foskey's house has had it been repaired twice. He's had broken cracks appear in his drywall in his house, and he's had to shore up his basement. This is the drive, the little gravel drive that services, interestingly enough, different platted properties, which are the garages in the back, and it turns out to be parking for the homes that were along the Springfield Avenue. So, but the creek goes right through those. And interestingly enough, this we thought was Park District land, but actually it's owned by the Sanitary District, but managed by the Park District. And this is Phillips Recreation Area, so this is park property. And the city owns part of a lot behind Poor's television repair here, and the creek goes right through it as well. And this is a vacant area here. So how hard would it be to start making a connection along these properties right through the Park District in 2 different locations and across Mr. Foskey's property, and starting to say, let's dedicate this property or easements along the creek for, a bicycle path and a multi-use path. And wouldn't that be a great thing? And even if you're going to build buildings or an apartment here, wouldn't you prefer to have something in the back of that along the creek so that you would be able to look out your apartment and see a beautiful natural riparian area? So I'm just saying this is a really good idea.
When you talked to the professor, did he, I'm sorry, I'm assuming it was Dr. Schmidt.
No, it was Professor Nieto, and this happened about 20 years ago, when at that time...
When the walls went in.
They went in the
steel.
70s.
Okay.
So this was like around, I don't know, 20 years ago. It was like 1998.
There weren't the problems with subsidence prior to those walls being
Nobody was
installed?
talking about them. Oh, well, I can tell you, there is a historical issue about that. Yes, because why would that be true? First of all, Boneyard Creek here was rerouted because at this corner, there used to be the Flatiron Building historically in 1948. 46 it burned down, but it was the tallest building in Urbana. It was a 4-story building. And, but even before that, there used to be a bridge right here on Main Street that you had to come across in the turn of the century, 1990, 1900. There was a bridge here on Main Street that you had to cross to get across the creek. And this was a depressed area during pioneer times because it was a buffalo wallow. So there was actually a swamp area, and it was fed by a natural spring. The natural spring actually fed a fountain that was on this corner when the Flatiron Building was built. It was a temperance fountain, but it was demolished, and during World War I, it was scrapped for metal.
So my question was, if we were to, redo this section of the boneyard, would that reduce the subsidence? Was that part of the
Right, yeah,
discussion?
yeah.
Well, these are
I know, 'cause
great
it's-
technical questions that I
Yeah.
don't
Just,
know.
you hadn't had that part of it.
I mean, in a way, the answer would be yes. Or maybe not, it depends. But, so, anyway.
Most it might be some, but it'd be less probably.
Yeah, the metal posts or the metal pilings, those are standard things to put in to keep the slopes from moving.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It'd
supposed
be
to
interesting to see
barrier
if
to
they're
hold
actually holding up.
Well, I think they're rusting, and also even like after they were laid, there was water that would like push up through the bottom of
Right,
the bed, and they actually had to go through later on and cement the bottom of the bed, which happened, I don't know when. But. And then at one time there was a collapse of Main Street here about 15 years ago or so when a sewer line, a storm sewer drained the water, washed the dirt away, and the road collapsed and it had to be refilled with, I said, 6 truckloads of gravel. That was it. That was before my time. That was something that Darrell Foster knew about. So it was Professor Nieto was the professor we had talked to. And at one time, the city almost had that land converted into park because Senator Weaver, I think his name was, actually got funding from the federal government to do it, but the then mayor of Urbana didn't want to do it, chose not to do it. So this area, if we were going to talk about preparing using it as the initial step to create a new creekway plan to the west from the downtown, happens to also be in the TIF district. This is TIF 2, and this is in the central TIF. So this property would actually be in a tax increment finance district, which is what financed the planning for the original Boneyard Improvement Plan that we had in 2008. So, so we thought, well, the city hasn't really done anything in particular about this area of town. They've fussed a lot about the central section of the Boneyard, did all the work on there, but then you kind of just stopped. So what can be done? So we thought, Mr. Frosty, the reason why he's kind of really interested is he'd like to sell his property. So, so we've been contacting different, trying to contact our state representatives to find out if is federal funding, FEMA funding for flood control, perhaps, or flood mitigation, or if there were any kinds of wildlife and conservation funding available. So we sent a letter to Rodney Davis's office last year. And his representative did send us to some URLs to websites where we could apply for funding. But then I was realizing that, well, Darrell Foster and I are probably not going to get a grant from the federal government. It has to be something a little more fundamental. So we brought the question to the city council. Well, actually what I did is I took it to the Regional Planning Commission. I thought, well, there are planners for the county, and we participate in the Regional Planning Commission meetings. So I gave this presentation to them, and they expressed a lot of interest. But they said that they felt that it would be more appropriate for the request to be interactive on this and to support this plan, and perhaps to create a plan for this pathway, should come from the city of Urbana. So we took it back to the city of Urbana, and about in March 20th, the city of Urbana passed resolution 2017-03-017, which states that the city is interested in pursuing the planning and development of a quickway path between the downtown and the campus, that it would like to partner with the Regional Planning Commission, the Champaign-Urbana Area Transportation Study, COATS, and other interested agencies and organizations to extend the Boneyard Creek Improvement Plan westward between downtown Urbana and the University of Illinois campus, and to thereby preserve the length of Boneyard Creek through Urbana as a public trail and parkway for posterity. So basically, we have the permission of the city now, and with that, the Regional Planning Commission is willing to start writing grants at the grant cycle for next year to see if we can find funding either at the state or the federal level. So I think that's very exciting. And what we do is we're now going and visiting different, what we feel are organizations, agencies, and commissions who were likely supporters of this process. Possibly in the future, we'd like to come back to you and ask you to write a letter of support to help support a grant request at some level. And so I'm here to say that I think it's a great idea. Its time has, I think, come for planning. Why not be proactive? Try to secure some of this property for to connect the walkway, because in the same meeting that we had this resolution, the people from the Kickapoo Trail Forestry, I can't remember what their name is the Forest Division over in near Danville, wanted to also secure an executive agreement with the city to plan how to connect the end of the Kickapoo Trail that goes all the way to the state line to downtown Urbana, because right now it stops at the outskirts of the town. So there's needs to plan that trail connection. And it would make sense then to continue to connect the trail all the way into the campus area and through our downtown. So that's my presentation.
Where is the Kickapoo Trail outside of town? Like what's the location?
It would begin at the edge of the town near Walmart.
Okay.
It's along Route
150.
150? No.
It's 150.
150. It goes to Mayville, and then it goes to St. Joe, Fithian, goes to Danville, along the abandoned railroad bed, because the railroad bed will become the entrance.
It looks gorgeous. I don't think it's rideable quite yet. But
Okay.
Yeah.
they've been doing the grading and stuff. It's really neat to see in 30 years. And this would have started when I was in high school.
So you have to start sometime in making plans, and so we're just going to try to do it this year.
At this point, do you need anything from us, or it's just to sort of put a bug in our ear, or are you?
Just a bug in your ear,
Okay.
just to build up enthusiasm in general in the community, because hopefully you might actually want to have one of your members participate in what could become a commission. And I'll tell you that I've talked also, Daryl Fossey and I, and Clark Bullard, who is the Boneyard Creek Commissioner. He's working, though, without a commission. And so we're going to be talking very soon about creating a Boneyard Creek Commission, which will take over the responsibility of developing the trail, as also watching as construction along the Boneyard Creek is proposed.
Have the other residents next to Mr. Fossey been contacted about potentially buying their properties or kind of connecting that whole thing? into
No,
a
what we're
park?
going to do is start working with them. One of the things we can do is if we can't get their property, we can buy easements to allow the trail to go through. We can buy a 20 or 30-foot easement each side of the creek. Currently, we have a maintenance easement, which allows us to do repair work, but we don't have a permanent public use easement. And so one of the things we could do is start buying those easements from people. They might even wish to donate the easement if they have that kind of inclination. So once we know that we have a plan we can start talking to them about the fulfillment of the plan and how they can interact with that. But right now, it's merely just talk. Once we start working, and I would like to, one of the suggestions was that we might start working with the School of Landscape Design to have charrettes on what a path might look like. Because we need to have something like that in hand before we can actually do a very strong grant proposal.
One thing I'm thinking, I was on city council, gosh, in the 1990s, and I remember with some of the discussions about the rail to trail, and this is just, you may have already encountered this, but I do remember that there was sometimes some resistance from folks who, if that trail was going through their yard or near their property, security concerns. And so I would just say, you might just want to be aware that those may come up when you start talking to property owners, and, be prepared ahead of time with, some way to address that in the plans.
Yes, because that's what defeated a bike path from the downtown through the East Urbana neighborhood to the corners of Washington and Philo Road. There was an abandoned Wabash train route through there, and people preferred to have the trackway vacated, and then it became their backyards. They extended their property lines to the middle of the track. But we can only have a conversation if we have a plan.
And
We're starting that now.
There are some existing relatively new bike paths in the urbanized area that are just at the back of property. They're in Champaign, but they've gone through that process here in that sense of our community at large, and so it's probably data that's very specific, very relevant to us. That could be.
And I know that there's a lot of trail through a lot of western Decatur also.
And I believe the one I'm thinking of, it was my understanding from the people I knew there that they thought it actually enhanced their property. So
and I think if you frame it,
perspective,
if you
too.
frame it the right way and you have the data when you first present it, I think that can make a big difference in how people receive it and how they think about it. So.
There's some trails in Bloomington Normal. I don't know if you want to contact them and see how they got everything going. There's also, I assume it's a rail to trail path from Morton to East Peoria, so you can ask them how they kind of got that going. So.
And I just met with a class last week in landscape architecture. It's Dr. McGuire's class, Mary Pat McGuire.
So you might be.
And her class was looking at water architecture in the sense of water and landscapes and strata, I guess. So that might be something.
I know that about 2 years ago, the landscape architecture school did a huge charrette about the beautification of the rail line that comes into, is the old Illinois Central rail line that comes north from town, and which the Amtrak is on, and through they actually did a huge charrette project for one semester. So I mean, this would be another really good choice for them if they chose to do it. So thanks for the name, Dr. McGuire. Yeah.
There's two questions I had. One was the part that is designed, that's installed by Silver Creek. Is that a bike path?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a shared use pathway.
It's a shared use.
Okay. And then the other thing is about the we're talking about bikes a few times here, but to me the Boneyard is just this incredibly important feature of our community. It's a big part of what Urbana, it's why there was a little town here, is because there was a little water here, right? And so the aspect of opening it back up and making it a resource instead of something that's hidden underground and is actually potentially contributing to subsidence in the area is what makes me really excited about this project. I think it's a great idea. Sounds like it's not opportunity that's not asking people to go to like vacate their homes, but working with the community, which is what we like to do for the betterment of not just the transportation infrastructure, but also just the enjoyability of the area. I mean, I've walked through that area, not necessarily on the path, but that particular space crossing Main Street, and you can see where the cut was and where the bridge used to be, and you can see the storm sewers kind of sinking in, I think, at the curbs, if I remember correctly. And so having that become something that is, and right now it's a little bit of an eyesore, and turning it into something that is really, really positive for our community, I just think is a really good thing. Also, as we start getting into talking about resilience, instead of just being carbon neutral, but trying to adapt to the changes we know are happening. And one of the key changes I am focused on personally is the increase in rain and the increase in flooding. And so doing things and making sure that what gets put in there is green infrastructure for the stormwater component, and not forgetting that's a purpose of the or that should be part of the sustainability effort with that project. Would be a case, it'd be an example, it'd be somewhere that would build strength in the community. It'd be great if we could have, if we did end up getting all that property instead of just easements, having like a gazebo or something, so there's a gathering space, because people go to Phillips Rec Center, especially if they're standing there waiting because their kids are in a class or something. I do a lot. We used to sit on a bench, watch a playground. But if we could instead go over by the water and see, I think there's a lot of opportunity really from.
Yeah, and there's also, I think it would tie into the recreational aspects of the sustainable water management plan, and promote some of those things that are there in that plan.
Well, it's very exciting to hear your positive feedback. Very interestingly, I just got this also this afternoon. The Urbana Pedestrian Master Plan is just now being discussed at meetings in various neighborhoods. And everybody is a pedestrian, so tell your thoughts about walking in Urbana. Well, what a great timing this would be to bring this conversation to this plan-making event. So there is a map, and I can give this to you if you want to share with your commission about the meetings when they're going to be.
Yeah.
And
You don't have to have electronic copy of this, do you?
no, I don't actually.
Probably
but
on the city website. But
yeah, or the Regional Planning Commission has it, or somebody does, I'm sure, because this was the Regional Planning Commission member who brought this to the Learman Neighborhood Garden meeting.
It just reminds me of something else. The campus master planning process has additional input meetings next week. It'd be good if someone from your group could go there to make a comment about the connection for the connection to the city.
Yeah.
I mean,
Could you send me information about that
I
meeting?
can, yeah.
Do you have my card? Or,
I know how to count it.
You can figure out who I am? Okay. I don't want to take all your meetings, so that'd be nice.
Did CCRPC give you any estimate on the plane cost, if they were going to do it?
I don't know, but they said because that Kuwats would be able to handle it, and so that's why they wanted a formal statement of partnership, which is handled now by the resolution that got passed a couple of weeks ago. That as part of Kuwat's mission, they would help make the plan. I mean, they would help actually work on it. I don't know to what degree, but we already have some information about how much the plan costs to design the Boneyard section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 downtown. This would probably be cheaper. I mean, some of the planning could just be adopted to this section, and it would probably be a lot less infrastructure heavy. Good plan. I mean, it's going to cost money. That's another reason to look for funding. And that could be the purpose of the whole grant right there, is to create a real plan. So thanks.
I had a question, and maybe just a comment. As you're talking about this, Dennis, I was thinking about, there's a little bit of there's a mobility angle to this. You know, walkways. We've got places along the Boneyard infrastructure that are also connected with bus stops, and so I wonder if, you know, there's some way that the NTD might be a partner in this, and I know, you know, Carl Gannett has been pretty progressive on his idea of, you know, transit and mobility and multimodal, and just kind of an open-minded guy. And anyways, I just wonder if there might be a collaborative aspect somehow in this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm looking for all kinds of people who want to collaborate. We've done a presentation with the Park District. They're very interested. They're going to probably, that was with Tim Bartlett. They're probably going to bring it to their park board in a couple months when they have it on time for it on the agenda. And I'm just shopping it around to everybody who could make exciting thoughts about this project. I appreciate your suggestion. I hadn't thought about NTD yet.
Are there any other comments or questions? This one? Well, thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you've got, you can, I'll leave the presentation so you can, or I'll send it to you, or you
That'd be
can pull
great.
it off the
Yeah, if you
computer.
could
or
send it
whatever.
to-
Yeah, I've got it on the desktop here.
Okay, so I'll pull my stick out,
Right.
so I just remember it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let us know when you need
Yeah.
anything else from us.
Thank you very much.
I have to head out.
No worries.
All right. Next we have the staff report.
Sure. First, a few updates on climate action plan activities. Staff has requested funds in accordance with the climate action plan for recapitalizing a home energy performance program. This is something that the city had operated years ago. They had used ARA funds, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds, to add additional incentives to Ameren, Illinois' energy efficiency incentives. And so it's on our, it was in our plan this calendar year to ask for funding for that, so we have. On Goal 1, Action 6, evaluate opportunities to retrofit existing outdoor lighting. We talked about before, we're pursuing a guaranteed energy savings project. We've published that request for proposal. The responses are due June 2nd. It's a long open period because there's a lot of analysis that has to be done in the proposal phase. We've already received questions, and so we've published an addendum as well. So that's proceeding, and look forward to seeing what kind of proposals we get from energy services companies. Solar Advantage. Yes.
On that bid process, is there is there a site visit included in that open time frame?
Sorry, is there a what?
Is there a site visit, where potential bidders?
There is one site visit.
Okay.
And while proposals may touch on any energy or water consuming facility or equipment that the city owns, in order to limit the scope of this proposal phase, where what we're really doing is getting a sense of projects and choosing a professional company to work with, we're really focused on the city building, and we'll have a site tour at the city building, and the library, and we'll have a site tour at the library on that day. So we're not showing every last fire station or every last street light, although we've provided a lot of that data in the RFP. But we're sort of focusing on those two buildings to keep the scope small at this point, limit staff time inputs at this point, and this phase of this process, which is described in state statute, is primarily focused on finding a good company to work with.
Sounds good.
Solar Urbana-Champaign is conducting solar power hours. You may have seen posters, flyers. I brought some with me today that you can take with. Post them where you see that there is one in need. We're conducting solar power hours, and I understand that we already have a contract signed, and an installation will commence very soon, and we'll be doing a press release for that, and expect some good media attention for the first install.
Is that something that the student club could help promote?
Sure.
And so
Absolutely.
we could connect.
Take a flyer home.
We could connect Andy
Yeah.
to Aiden and let them spread the word throughout town.
Yeah.
That would be great. And I don't know how easy it is to just set, like in grade schools, my kid comes home with flyers all the time. I don't know if that happens with the high school.
I'm surprised people are even awake in high school, so I don't know if flyers are going.
Just
Well, you could
put
get,
a flyer
like, you
on
could do like the
everybody's back, each
billboard
person's
kind
back,
of thing
and
on
they
your.
can, yeah, exactly.
Sorry, where are those flyers?
Yeah.
I've got some in my bag.
Okay, cool.
I can share with you today.
All right, thanks.
On climate adaptation, as you know, we're a signatory to the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. And so we're working with Aiden, supporting Aiden, mostly helping get the right extension service expertise to his sustainability club so that they can implement this butterfly garden at the high school. And so we had a meeting at the Sustainability Club the other day, and lots of good information, I think. And I think we're all on the right track to add another spot for butterflies, monarchs, and other butterflies in our community.
Hey, I have a question on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like this, and you know, one thing with pollinators and butterflies is obviously like connectivity, and of course that's difficult with all the streets and stuff like that. But more and more sites, more butterfly gardens, and so what I wonder is if this kind of event, if there's some way of I don't know, some kind of promotional thing where people who live in the area, if this is like a nucleation site and something that inspires other people to install them in spots where they can in their homes and gardens and other kinds of places. And if there's some kind of, I don't know what the idea is, but if there's some kind of outreach mechanism associated with this to maybe spur some more similar types of activities in the area.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Maybe there will be folks who would want to flyer some doors in the immediate vicinity, direct their gaze to this attractive butterfly monarch garden and invite them to do something similar on their own property.
Also, if there's any sort of events where the garden is being built or put in, there can be a ribbon cutting type ceremony. Press releases can go out about that. Nice photo op for the students, for the school. Good press opportunity there.
That's a good point. We supported the library's pollinator garden last year, and we just did the work, and they had students in an after-school program at the library that came and did the work, and librarians did the work. And it's a nice garden, and I see it's just starting to sprout with all the plants that we put in last year for this spring. But I don't think we did that, so we did all the work and didn't get any credit or promotion for it. But everyone was just focused on getting it done. But that's a really good point.
We are a tree city, and we're recognized as a bike city and some other things. And I don't know if there's a pollinator thing. Recognition kind of thing, but
I know there's a
maybe
bees.
that's some kind of aspirational thing to realize some number of installations of these things. I don't know, could see if there's some kind of certification out
Well,
there.
at the university, they asked us if we wanted to be a bee campus. So there's probably Bee City. We can check with the pollinator group.
I don't know of a bee city. With the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, on their website, they do have some categories of cities that have not only taken the pledge, signed the pledge, but have also implemented some number of activities. So, we've done, I don't know, 2/3 of the activities, something like that. And so we're in the second tier from the top. I think the top tier is he did it all, something like that. So in that sense, there's a program, to the pledge. So we're participating in that. If there's something for bees, that'd be interesting to know. I've seen lots of, both on the monarch side, the pollinator side, the bee side. I've seen lots of, signs you can get that say, this is a pollinator garden, this is a bee garden, that sort of thing. But not something as robust as what you're talking about. But maybe it's out there.
There is a Bee City USA organization.
Yeah, Bee Campus.
Nice.
Yeah, Bee Campus is affiliated with them as well. And so there are 44 bee cities throughout the U.S. and counting, and none so far are in Illinois.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
be the first. And
There we go.
Something.
And may I just add that, we're working with Mr. Tess and everyone else for the pollinator thing, even though it's mainly focused on monarchs, bees are also, we are also putting in plants to attract bees and things, as well as on the Fowler Farmers Pocket that the Urbana and Champaign School District share. We're trying to actually put in beehives and things. I believe what's the word I'm looking for? My advisor has somebody from either U of I Extension or just somewhere around here who is going to come in and talk to us about how to actually manage a beehive and things like that. And we're trying to figure out how to do that without the school getting angry at us. So, yeah.
Very good. We have some public engagement noted in the report. The recycling coordinator is at the housing fair. She typically attends this event. We have a lot of residents that are in single-family and multifamily housing in Urbana that are eligible for U-Cycle service, that have U-Cycle containers at their house, but are constantly moving in and out because they're students and other folks who aren't staying in the same residence for years on end. So what that means is we are essentially promoting U-Cycle every year as if it's the first year of the program, because for thousands of residents, it is the first year that this program has ever existed in their world. And the housing fair is one of the places we do that because a lot of those temporary students or temporary residents are students, and so we engage there. On the water management plan, we have finalized an agreement with a competitively selected vendor to conduct a rain barrel and compost bin sale this year. It's a new vendor we haven't had before. We spec out the product, the type of products we're interested in, and it's low bid. They also, like the vendor last year, use refurbished food grade plastic barrels for rain barrels and compost bins. The sale is scheduled for May 6th. That's the first Urbana Market at the Square. And right now it's scheduled for 9 to noon. That's what the bidder proposed. In the past it's been a little bit longer into the afternoon, so we'll see if they want to keep with those times, but that's what it's scheduled for now. They will have pre-order online, and that'll probably be posted this week on the city website, and we'll do all the other media as well. And the prices of the products are in the staff report. On our goal in the water plan to address household hazardous waste, the county a year or so ago published a report that describes some strategies for both conducting a single-day household hazardous waste collection and also establishing a permanent household hazardous waste facility, a facility that might be open 2 days a week or something like that year-round. so that folks aren't stockpiling hazardous waste in the garage because they have nowhere else to take it. The county is leading, is just forming right now an advisory committee or a leadership committee to start working through that plan, implementing its strategies. They may consider first running a single day household hazardous waste collection and then move on to scoping out a permanent facility. So the recycling coordinator, Urban's recycling coordinator, Courtney Kwong, is going to be participating in that and representing the city. Our goal is to promote environmentally friendly landscaping practices. The Sustainability Division and the Arbor Division are partnering with the Midwest Pesticide Action Center on a grant application with the Lumpkin Family Foundation that would fund the Midwest Pesticide Action Center's public engagement programming. They have 3 separate programs. We're going to ask for funding for all 3. The programs are pesticide-free parks, point-of-purchase labeling, and community engagement presentations, kickoff events, pledges, so forth. It's essentially, public engagement, labeling at stores, and then pesticide-free parks. We're going to be working with the center to establish the north end of this property where our monarch and pollinator garden is going in this spring as a pesticide-free park. And so it's not park district land, it's city-owned, but it's essentially park-like. So we're going to be committing to that and then supporting their other efforts, provided we get grant funding for that.
Question? Does the city have any existing resolutions on maybe like not using neonics or banning neonicotinoids as a pesticide in the area?
We do not. We discussed that issue with the Arbor Division.
Mm-hmm.
They've looked at what they use, and they don't believe that anything they use is neonicotinoid.
Okay.
This engagement process with the Midwest Pesticide Action Center is a continuation of that critical self-evaluation. So it'll be another opportunity to bring folks who know a lot about pesticides into our city and take a look at what we're using and make sure we're adopting that integrated pest management approach where pesticides may be used here and there, but they're not the main go-to strategy. You use a blended strategy of mechanical practices, cultural practices, limited chemicals, that sort of thing, plant selection, proper watering, all those aspects of integrated pest management. But to answer your question in short, we don't believe we're using anything that has neonics, but we're going to use this as an opportunity to look again closely. Also, U-Cycle is working with the partners throughout the county, the other municipalities and the county government to plan another electronics recycling event. That event is scheduled May 20th. It'll be at the Parkland College parking lot, I think is where it's been the last couple of iterations. We are again using the online registration system, so there will be no line. You will register for a specific time, show up, and you will more or less be the only person dropping off materials, electronics at that time. But that also means that there is a limited number of slots, so you want to register as soon as you can. Registration went live yesterday. So the website for registration is on the city website. Our next scheduled meeting would be May 2nd at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Are there any other comments or questions? All right, let's move to our continuing business, and this is picking up on some conversations that we had over the past couple months about our parliamentary procedure and just relaying a couple of comments that we received. And actually, Marcus, I believe this one came from you originally about opening the floor to public comment and questions after we discuss each agenda item, which I think would be a very workable way to do things. So I just wanted to, I guess, put that out. And we have one other comment to consider, but just to see if that's something that would be agreeable to the group. If it is, we'll implement it.
Great, thank you.
We don't need to vote on that, do we?
Pardon?
Do we need to vote on that?
No.
Like, okay.
I think there's no objections. We'll just
Okay.
adopt it as a practice.
I think it's a great idea.
And
I think it's a
then,
great idea too.
yeah. And then the other was a comment from, that Mark Rhodes emailed to Scott after our February meeting, speaking in favor of retaining Robert's rules, but having the chair explain at the beginning of the meeting, kind of how it goes, how public comment is conducted and received. And that's, again, an easy thing that I'm perfectly happy to do. But I don't know if anybody has any comments on opening the meeting that way each time, or at least each time that we have members of the public present.
I think that sounds good.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments on that topic? All right, now we'll move to new business, and we're going to bump the capital projects discussion to our May meeting. Todd, did you have anything you wanted to mention about that this evening before we move to announcements?
No, I think I'll save my comments for next time.
Okay. Are there any announcements this evening?
Earth Week has a full schedule of events on campus. So that's the week leading up to Earth Day. So it's later this month and before our next meeting.
Any other announcements?
It's the 17th through the
17th.
21st, I think.
All right.
Wait, I have a couple others.
Okay,
Sorry. So
keep
we
going.
also have Boneyard Creek Community Cleanup Day that everyone here should sign up for and tell your friends. That's later this month as well. And I think it's maybe something like might be the 23rd. Do you know the day of Boneyard Creek Day? It's in April, which means now's the time to sign
It's
up.
the weekend, but the Saturday before.
Okay. And then
16th.
And then there's also Arbor Day is the last Friday of the month. So there's an event that the Arbor Division coordinates in Urbana. Champaign usually has something, and campus has a tree planting at noon on the South Quad, actually, near Temple Deal Hall.
Is it Easter?
Boneyard Creek Community Day is April 29th,
29th, the week after.
9 a.m. to
Right,
noon.
I gave you Easter week party. We're hunting for eggs. That's what we're doing.
Lots of events.
And I believe they'll be having some Urbana cleanup sites for that this year.
Other announcements? All right. See no further business before us. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second?
I doubt there's any discussion, but if somebody wanted to discuss it, we could. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.